Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're out in our little greenhouse. I really wanted to talk about cooling your greenhouse today. Now we've got our 70% shade cloth up. I've talked about this a lot on this channel. We have this propagation greenhouse. We use this little greenhouse and absolutely fill it up with propagations. All of our elderberries are coming along from about a week ago here. They're starting to do pretty well for us. Now, aside from just propagations in here and talking about the shade cloth, 70% shade cloth to keep the temps down and the bright sunlight out, we have no water in here. We have no rain unless we water the ground. So you have to think about that also. Keeping your ground moist and not letting it dry out is very key and pertinent to keeping a good atmosphere and good moisture content even in your potted plants, because if you don't have any moisture in the soil, it will suck all of the moisture right out of your potted plants as well. Now let's get right into this. We're sitting like 90 some degrees, almost 100 degrees. Heat index is probably about 100 plus, so it is baking. I'm sweating out here, so I'm going to make this video rather short. But the main factor of keeping the ground cool in this greenhouse, aside from watering it down, is my old recycle Jean-Pain composting system. My little solar powered water pump and my battery storage is definitely the key factor in keeping the ground cooler and keeping some cool water on all of my cuttings that I'm always trying to root up in my aquaponics pebbles. So let me explain. I've been using this Jean-Pain composting system for about 4 winters now, and keeping this greenhouse pretty warm all winter and being able to grow and keep things alive throughout the winter in zone 5A, 4B. We're right on the edge here. So we see some pretty cold temps, -30s for extended periods of time. So that leads me to the topic today. My Jean-Pain composting system is recycled into a cooling system in the summertime. I have ran this system for 4 years straight. This thing has not shut off. It's on a timer and it will continually run. Even on cloudy days, it builds up enough energy to run for the 15-minute cycle out of every hour. This is basically off of geothermal principles. I have all of my compost out back and I leave about half my pile and just hill it back up and keep about 2 foot over top of all of my coiled hose in order to dampen those hot temperatures in the summer, and it can keep it 30 to 40 degrees cooler underneath all of that and underneath my tarp than the surface soil, which is absolutely amazing. So we can pump the water from our little overflow tank down here where our little guppies are eating all the bugs. So all of our water will come right up through the pump, through this little blue hose, and circulate out into our compost. So our compost is keeping that hose very cool compared to the outside temperatures. You can see that this is sweating. We have got 75 degrees, 76 almost, yeah. And that is crazy because we are sitting about 95, 96, 97 in certain spots, not even in the sunlight. That's just how warm it is in the shade right now. So being able to keep this in the shade is pretty pertinent also. We don't have any sunlight on this, so this keeps it a little cooler, but being able to use our geothermal properties from our compost to cool that water, and it runs through the entire floor of our greenhouse here. It comes up through the entire floor and then comes back out and dumps back in up top here. So all of this cool water allows us to root all of these plants up. That is absolutely nuts how much roots we have. This is a little poblano pepper. I just took this off the top of one of our pepper plants just to propagate it. This is one of our little orange habaneros. I had stuck this in about a week ago. That's crazy because this was just from a fresh cutting right off of the plant. Stick this back in here, kind of wiggle it in a little bit. Get those roots back down in the water. Got some marigolds. I always love to show the roots on all of these. This is absolutely nuts how fast these grow because we have this cool water. So aside from just cooling the actual floor of our greenhouse, we are able to use that cool water to propagate all of these cuttings, and very fast. You can see how 1 week had all of these roots coming off of here, and we're able to slowly pot that up, keep it in our nice shaded greenhouse, and we can pot that out, sell it or just put it right in the ground after we kind of shelter it a little bit from the sun and work it out and harden it off. So as you can see, I'm sweating profusely. We are not cooling the airspace in here. I've even been drying out some of this garlic in here because it's so dry. But keeping the ground cool is very pertinent as we are trying to always propagate and just keep everything cooler on the floor. We cannot control the airspace or the temperature outside, obviously, and you can't really cool the airspace in a greenhouse unless you had it sealed up, and that doesn't work in the summertime. So we are using this whole space. We've got all of our stevia propagating and some of our citronella coming along. Just tons and tons of plants in here that are staying alive and staying healthy, and they are continually cycling out of our water, and they are benefiting from having this cool area, and everything's benefiting from our shade cloth. Obviously that 70% shade cloth only allows about 30% of light to come through, and even though we have our bubble wrap still up from the winter time, we are not really holding any hotter temperatures than outside the greenhouse for the airspace. Now I really wanted to share this with everybody because it has been brutally hot here all summer long. As soon as May hit, we have seen unseasonably warm temperatures, 90s and above, and it's made it very hard to get our plants propagated like normal. Last season we had no problem keeping everything cool and propagating tons and tons of stuff without having any worries of it drying out, dying, or being scorched by the heat and sun. Now this season has been absolutely crazy for heat, so having these systems in place has saved our butt and allowed us to produce all these plants without fail for our farmers market and for ourselves, family, and friends. Now this actual pump system, the solar panel, the battery, and the backup, all the pump and everything included, was around $100, and that was a good investment. I was concerned that it might not last, but 4 years later we are still doing the same thing with it, and it has ran for 4 years straight every day without fail.